Gotham is in general a dark series. It has a certain attraction to villains that have darkness in them. Mr. Pig, though, that's a little dark even for it. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Gotham, Episode 6 of Season 4, Hog Day Afternoon. Kind of like a hot day in the afternoon. Alright, so there's a lot to unpack, but I want to specifically talk about the concept of Professor Pig. Because you see, I didn't come across it just anywhere. I came across it back when there was a new cartoon coming out called The Batman Strikes, Fear the Bat, something like that. And in animated form, him and Mr. Toad kind of came off, well, cartoony. But at the time I hadn't read any of the comics that had him in it. So then I went back and did, and oof, just if you're gonna look up information about him, you might want to not have eaten first. And it's a perfect thing to look at in this corrupt and dirty city, and something that's great to deal with before Bruce becomes Batman. Now, for those of you that don't know, what I do here is I review shows as they come out, and do Throwback Thursdays every Thursday, but I also do theory videos on Sundays, where I talk about the idea of what stories are, and I'm trying to do it as a community. If that sounds interesting, click that subscribe button, because we have a lot going on. The shadow of Ra's al Ghul is still spread over the city, as Gotham is kicking off into high gear. Before we get into the spoiler territory, though, I want to take a break and talk about a different show for a second. HBO has this series, The Deuce. I've been watching it even though I haven't been reviewing it, mostly because I don't review such adult content. In fact, that's why I stopped reviewing The Magicians, because it was hard to not put trigger warnings on every single episode. But they have a sub-story about corrupt police, and the fact that everyone on the police force is on the take. Sound familiar? A lot like Gotham. They do it a little more realistically. But see, there's this one cop, and when the new captain comes in to clean house, he asks him, "Are you a meat eater or are you a grazer?" He says the meat eaters, they're the ones that go out looking. They're the ones that want to work with these criminals. They're the ones that are hungry for it. The grass grazers, though, they just go where the good grass is. So are you going along to get along, or are you out looking for this sort of thing? Because I can work with one, but not the other. And it makes me think of Jim, and to a certain extent Bullock. And since a good portion of tonight's episode was revolving around the idea of corrupt cops and whether or not they deserve what they get, there's part of me that wants to say, some of these bagmen might have been grass grazers. People who were just, hey, this is a really hard job. I just want to try to make it a little easier. Try to make my life a little easier. As opposed to people who particularly went out and looked for someone like Penguin. Not that I'm forgiving it, because at the end of the day, Penguin is scum, working with the mob are scum, and police who are in their pocket need to go to jail. But now let's get into details. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Okay, so a couple storylines to cover all at once. Yes, we have the Professor Pig character, but we also have what's going on in the city itself. Professor Pig appears to be working for someone, and is leaving a trail of bodies, specifically police bodies. Police that are corrupt, and again, there's part of me that says, well, if you lay down with dogs, or if you play in the mud. But Gotham also has a secondary story going tonight, and that's all about Penguin, and whether or not he can trust his new best friend. Or maybe potential girlfriend. I don't think even he knows for sure. And the big trick is that he knows that she's a Falcone, and Falcones can't be trusted. But at the end of the day, he also knows that right now, it's kind of lonely. He doesn't know who to trust. But she's perfectly seated her trap, and he thinks he's in charge. Now, that's going to juxtaposition with Pig, because he is setting his traps, and he thinks that he's got Gotham PD wrapped around his finger, and he also ties in with the Cobblepot storyline. And what we really have is the fact that there are players who think they're players, and ones who are just getting played. And that's really the theme of tonight, and we're going to take it one step further, as we go back and we see what Nigma's up to. He's got control of Grundy and has him wrapped around his finger, but when he tries to execute a plan that would get him under Leslie Thompson, well, She laughs him off. He's not as smart as he used to be. But it's kind of funny because that's pretty much what Falcone's doing, laughing at Penguin, because he's not as smart as he thinks he is. Because Falcone and Leslie realize where the real power lies, where the real threat lies. Now I'm going to just take a quick aside here. Back in the 90s, post Nightfall is the first time I really ran into Leslie Thompson in the comics. And well, she had her own little clinic downtown where she would help anyone. And there was always a little bit of gray area there. And in Birds of Prey, it was played up a little more than in Batman or Detective. But you come in with a gunshot wound to an ER and you have to report it. You go to Leslie's clinic, maybe she just makes sure you live. Now, that's not exactly what was going on here, but it pretty much was. Because you see, Butch, as Grundy, is fighting in these rings, and she's trying to help keep those fighters alive. And as part of her payment, she gets to keep her clinic going. But that then brings us to our next aside, her examining Grundy. He has no pulse, he has no heartbeat, and when she cuts him, it's not really blood but swamp water that comes out. Because he's a zombie. I mean, we're really doing mysticism this year, and we're really playing with it. Just kind of an interesting way to go. Back to the theme of tonight's episode. We have Pig, we have Penguin, we have everyone, really. We have Falcone, we have Riddler. Everyone thinks they're a player in this game, but of course someone has to be a pawn. And I did really love the fact that Leslie Thompson really showcased that to Nigma. If you wanted to blackmail me, what you should have done is used Grundy's popularity. Yeah, I guess we know who controls that situation, and it's neither of them. Now, having said that, I do enjoy the little play with the way Grundy's doing things, just not 100% on board with Idiot Riddler. I really hope that they get that fixed soon. In the meantime, we still have the Professor Pig out and about, and no one knows for sure where he is. That was a really creepy nursery rhyme. And next week we'll get more Bruce. But there's something else. Barbara, too, is one of those people who thinks she's a player. But in the grand scheme of things, I think she got played. I think she's the pawn. I think that Ra's al Ghul wanted Bruce to kill him, but he didn't want to die. Now, like I said, the shadow of Ra's al Ghul will extend throughout this entire season. But I'm thinking that the little shock he gave her through the prison cell is something we're going to need to come back to. All in all, though, next week we're going to have a pretty interesting episode, because we're going to have one with Bruce in it again. I'm curious to see if that's going to play up the bad boy Bruce that we got to see a little bit playfully. Then again, at the beginning of this review, I talked about grazers and meat eaters. And I guess now we know about Bullock, don't we? But my thoughts are still running on the positive. I'm still really enjoying Gotham. How about you guys? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of tonight's episode. Did you think this gave Professor Pig everything he deserves? And of course, if you think I deserve it, give me a thumbs up and a like, because it really helps the channel out. And of course, share this so that your friends and family can see how awesome I am. Or just point and laugh at how ridiculous I am. Whatever. If this is your first time here, click that subscribe button to get more, and join our little community where we're trying to explore what it means to tell a story, how we tell a story, and why we tell certain stories, as we walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.